Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, a video game music playlist to hold you to your New Year's resolutions. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, joined as always by my co-host Mark Mitchell.
Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Going pretty well, Mark. How you doing today?
Oh, man, I've got a brand new thing of chapstick.
Yeah?
I'm kind of getting over a cold.
Yeah, you're a new man.
I'm feeling great.
We've got a new lease on life.
Yeah, my lips are refreshed.
Mm-hmm. So you told me this is not a plug or
Right.
anything.
No.
Burt's Bees.
Burt's Bees. I cannot function without it. I've
what,
been using it for so long that my body relies on it.
Right. What happens if you try a different chapstick?
It just doesn't satisfy me like
Right.
Burt's Bees does.
Sure. Okay.
Like, sure, it'll work for a little bit. Or, like if
I don't know that your tone of voice was selling that like kind of shoulder roll and like Mark was.
I'm not a
rejecting.
believer. I will
Yeah.
go into a store, and if it doesn't have Burt's Bees, I will. Well, if I'm looking
You
for
turn
Burt's
over
Bees,
the magazine rack.
if I'm
and you
looking,
march
I
out.
should clarify. If I'm looking for Burt's Bees, if I go into a store and I'm not looking for Burt's Bees, and they don't have Burt's Bees, it doesn't bother me. If I go into a store and I'm looking for Burt's Bees and it doesn't have it, I will not settle for another chapstick. I will search out a store that has Burt's Bees.
Do you keep a surplus of Burt's Bees in your apartment?
I would if I was smart,
Oh, okay.
but I'm not, and I don't.
Well, then I have a perfect idea for a birthday gift, like 11 months from now. So I'll just log that away and forget.
It's cold outside.
Yeah, it is. It is. Oh yes, weather report. It is cold outside. Yeah, overcast.
Rainy, more rain than when we had El Nino. Get
Yeah.
it together, meteorologists.
Yeah, I mean, who's the Nino now?
Truly, are we all the Nino? Is that how that ends? Is that how that ends?
That might be. Yeah, I had thought earlier today that I didn't work today. And I thought it would be nice to go for a walk or a run or whatever, but it was too chilly in LA to just casually do that. So I didn't.
It was like 60 degrees.
It was like a high of 53, Mark.
Well, but you did qualify like chilly for LA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like it's wrong to say cold ever, I think, when you're talking about LA weather. So chilly I'm okay with. Mark, we're going to skip what we've been playing today.
Yeah.
And we're going to skip the debug, and we're going to skip news, and we're going to skip the other features on the show. And we're talking the new year. It is currently the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to it. It's 2017. We're happy with this number 17. We think it's a good number.
Things are about to get crazy here in a week or two with Nintendo Switch stuff.
Yeah, they definitely are about to get crazy. We're about to be super positive on some stuff and super negative on other stuff.
So we thought, why not right now, when the New Year's fresh in our mind, we're kind of easing back into life after the holidays. The craziness of Nintendo Switch news has not hit us yet.
Right, our blood is not yet boiling. Because it'll get there.
Oh, yeah.
Why not take some time to focus on us, right? Do a
Mhm.
little work on us. And, we also know it's time for resolutions, right? Like, Mark, how do you feel about New Year's resolutions? And do you ever do them? Do you have one now?
I don't generally set New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
But, I think I always have goals that I'm working towards. things that
Always
I
have
want to-
goals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. Or
Uh,
it sounds that way. I wouldn't know. I've never had a goal.
Yeah, what about you? You New Year's resolution fellow?
No, not normally.
Oh, great. So then we picked this perfect.
Well, but I will say that I can't like I don't necessarily have a New Year's resolution, but I recently saw La La Land, which great movie. I really enjoyed it, and has this sort of undercurrent of that these people would have better lives if they were just more unapologetically adventurous in their art and supportive of each other. And so that has made me think that I want to be more unapologetically adventurous of my art and supportive of the people I love. So it's not a New Year's resolution per se, so much as modeling my life after characters in a movie I enjoyed. But if you, listener, are interested in buckling down for your New Year's resolution, be it workout related or like you're going to write that thing or get a new job or whatever, Mark and I thought we would put together some like get into it playlists of video game music.
Yeah, I have a writing project that I'm really excited about like digging into this year. And Patrick and I both write for a comic book website, Retcon Punch. So when I'm doing writing for that or just, like working on things in general, there's like certain video game music that I like to have playing, that like helps me motivate to work or wow, that was not a helps me motivate
to work. It sounds like you're motivating someone else to work and
or that I'm motivating myself like as a means of conveyance to work.
Well, I mean, sometimes that's important too. Where like you need to go to work and you're like, Mark, get up. Mark, get up and go to work. Mark, get up and go to work.
But I use this music, this is like a selection of the music, part of the playlist that I use when I'm like working on projects that are important to me.
Yeah, and we're gonna, again, as part of like easing into the year, we're gonna like rest in these clips. We're not just gonna be like, my clip is from Mario, and then move on. We're gonna like listen to these things and maybe talk about how we use them or what specifically about it like motivates us to get something done or helps us like focus in on whatever. We'll find out what we're going to say about all of these things as we go. It'll be exciting like that.
I think you should go first.
You think I should go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only because when you were like, I was like, I knew we'd have to talk about these, but I was like, I'm going to have to like articulate why I like something. Let me listen to Patrick do it, and then I'll base my observations off of his.
Okay. Well, so I have divided my list into 3 categories, right? We've both done this sort of independently of each other. And my first category is what I use when I want the work that I'm doing to feel important. So like, Mark, do you ever find this when like you're writing something and you're like, this is dumb. I'm doing a fundamentally dumb thing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Mark, hold on. Mark, are you feeling that right now?
No.
Mark, do you feel that we're doing a dumb thing, right?
Do I do I look like I'm doing that?
No. So whenever I want to add a little bit of gravity to something, that's what these first. I have three songs that kind of fall into 3 pieces of music, I suppose, as none of them have lyrics, so none of them are songs. I'm going with a very recent example, a piece from the excellent Shovel Knight, the soundtrack to which was composed by Jake Kaufman, and you can get all of his music on his Bandcamp page. And the Shovel Knight soundtrack is also available on like Apple Music and Spotify and all of that right now. So that's super good. But the piece that I really like is called the Requiem of Shield Knight, or it's also the Catch Me music, the Catcher. At the end of every level, the Shovel Knight is around a campfire, and he imagines Shovel Knight or Shield Knight, who he's rescuing, falling from the heavens, and he's just like invaded by a nonstop like throng of enemies, and you kind of like fight them and try to catch her. And it's got this like sad, like lilting but also determined quality to it. Let's listen to a little bit. So that's my first pick. Mark, you played a little bit of Shovel Knight, right?
Yeah, I'm. Oh, excuse me. I'm still working my way through it a
Uh,
little bit at a time, but
yeah, it can be a little bit of a difficult game, um, but I find the music to be one of the more like persistent rewards of that game, and especially because every level ends with that kind of thing, um, and that track goes on for another like 2 minutes. Um, so as far as video game music is concerned, that's like a lifetime, right? So yeah, that's my first on my list of feel important, feel like grandiose
it,
about it.
and while we're in between songs here, we should probably delineate like what the criteria is,
Oh,
like
okay,
how we're choosing these.
sure.
And I don't mean like for our specific lists.
Hmm.
I just mean in general, we chose songs or music
Hmm.
tracks from
Pieces.
pieces. We chose pieces that uh, appeared on a Nintendo platform.
Yes.
So not all of mine are Nintendo exclusives. Most of them are, but not all of them are Nintendo exclusives.
Right. Well, and that example right there, Shovel Knight, is available on like everything right now. But it was native to native. Is that what I mean? It started on it started on Nintendo platforms, so um, it felt right to me. And I don't. Yeah, all of these I think we can say are pretty closely associated with Nintendo or Nintendo hardware. Yeah. You ready for my number 2 entry?
Yeah, I'm excited. Oh
Uh,
yeah, and also Patrick and I, we made our list independently.
Yes.
I don't know what's necessarily what's on Patrick's list.
Yeah, we do have one piece that overlaps.
Yes.
So when I get to, I think I may have even listed it last on my list. When I get to it, I should wait and just hand it over to you, and then we'll like close out by talking about the track together.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Peek behind the curtain. So for my second piece, I chose a classic in the same sort of Sonic vein as the Requiem for Shield Knight. This one from Mega Man 3, one of my favorite games of all time, and has a killer soundtrack. I am choosing the Proto Man theme, or the Whistle Symphony, as it is sometimes referred to. And you hear this like little whistle tag a bunch throughout the game every time Proto Man just like appears in the middle of a level to challenge you. But from like the little fanfare that starts it, it evolves into something again with a lot of the same qualities as the Requiem for Shield Knight, where it's both like sad and determined at the same time. So let's just listen to a little bit of that. Man, those NES composers really knew how to do like counterpoint in like a really satisfying way, right?
And that one is really interesting to me that it comes from a Mega Man soundtrack because it feels more. I can't like I don't know, like more. I think of Mega Man as more like rock and like really like high energy.
Yeah, and I would say that is generally more of like the Mega Man Sonic identity, but uh Mega Man 3 does some weirdly sophisticated storytelling, just like implied in, who this robot is that appears and fights you a couple times and then eventually helps you. And he's supposed to be like, one of the robots created by Dr. Light, who like he's like your fellow good robot who is maybe just confused because you're a robot fighting other robots, and he's like, hey man, don't mess with the robots. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a sense of like I guess like longing
Yeah, absolutely.
in the music that again I don't think of in Mega Man games, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it's certainly more sophisticated from like a storytelling perspective, than I normally expect of Mega Man. So for my third piece, this one actually sort of straddles. It's my last like important feeling one. I think it transitions nicely into just the sort of procedural nature of using music to like focus you for work. It is the Stickerbush Symphony from Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. It's played during the level Bramble Blast. I was first directed to this piece of music from Super Smash Brothers. There's a really cool orchestral arrangement of it in Smash. But for this, I'm pulling the original 16-bit version from the Super Nintendo. So let's just listen a little. I find it so satisfying how that texture like kind of grows and evolves throughout. Like those drums don't kick in until like a minute in, and then you're like, oh yeah.
Have you ever? There's a Swedish band called the Radio Department.
Uh-huh.
This reminds me so much of their work, and that makes it so impressive to me because they're doing this on like a 16-bit system. Like listening to these songs in isolation, like Mega Man 3, Donkey Kong Country 2, you really do realize like how sophisticated and how like what amazing musicians the people that are
Oh yeah, I mean
creating these pieces are.
there's some like real artistry in a lot of these things. Um, I also think that there are a bunch of sounds that you can hear in that recording that sound like textures that are unique to the Donkey Kong Country on Super Nintendo series. Um, there's like a little bit that almost sounds like a voice. And like some of those piano textures also sound a lot like the underwater music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought initially. Is like it sounds a lot like the underwater music.
Yeah, it's cool to think that like uh these games forge a sonic identity beyond melodies, that like there are specific sounds that they're like that's Donkey Kong, that's part of this series.
And I feel like the Super Nintendo really does have a very identifiable like Sonic
Absolutely.
landscape, whatever like magic they did with that with the Sony like sound chip, and maybe it's just because the Super Nintendo, I played it at such a formative time, but it's just like ingrained in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You hear something and you're like, that sounds like it's coming from a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it's interesting. Have you ever done this where like you compare the soundtracks of games that were on multiple platforms in the 16-bit era? Like if you listen to something on Genesis and on the Super Nintendo, that it's the same music but function off of different sound chips. So like a crunchy instrument sounds different on the two platforms, and also way different on say like the TurboGrafx 16. It's just so neat to hear that like it's not just a recording of music put over, like all these things have their own hardware and their own software to make these sounds.
And it's so different from, basically from like the PlayStation 1 era on, as soon as we switched over to CD-ROMs.
Yes, because then we get a lot more like just straight up MIDI stuff or like actual recordings of music. Yeah. Okay, so now we are into the part of my list that is just like procedurally focused. It's where like I just want to get to work and I just want to feel like a little worker bee getting stuff done. So my first pull is from Mario Paint, just the normal vanilla background music. And I know that this, for me, I equate it with working because I made so many movies in Mario Paint as a kid that like the idea of hearing this music while I'm working on something creative is just hardwired into my brain. There's already hundreds of hours of that road laid in my brain. So let's just listen to some of that. And again, that doesn't make me feel like a superhero getting work done. It makes me feel like like I've got a hard hat on and I'm reporting for work. You know,
We were talking about the unique sonic soundscape of the. Wait, hold on. We were talking about the unique sonic soundscape of the SNES,
mm-hmm.
and that like where it sounds like a church mouse is being played, or like a cat is being played like a pipe organ, where it's like meow, 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 meow. Like that is a sound that I identify so strongly with the SNES.
Yeah,
and I don't think was on any other system.
Yeah, maybe not. I think there's actually a lot of that. Spoiler: there's a lot of Super Nintendo on my list.
Yeah, same.
And I wonder. I wonder if that even affects us more than like the visuals of Super Nintendo games. That like what we want is we want that audio experience. Yeah, I don't know. Like that makes me just like put my head down and be like, yep, time to get to work. I gotta make this dumb little cartoon. We ready for my next one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one that I definitely use for physical activity, but not like working out. So like moving or cleaning or anything like that, where it's again very like procedurally based. I don't know that I can necessarily use it for writing, but if moving in particular, and it's partially because I imagine myself holding something over my head. I'm talking, of course, of the Super Mario Brothers 2 overworld theme. So I'm just imagining everything I'm carrying as a big turnip. Listen. The rhythm of that thing is so cool.
There were about 2 weeks right after the NES Classic Edition was released, and we were playing Super Mario Brothers 2. That I just had that in my head constantly. And I was like walking around, when I was at work, when I was in the shower. And yeah, it's a great soundtrack for your life.
Weren't we counting it as we were playing the game that there are only like 5 pieces of music in that game?
Yeah, there's not much. There's the overworld, like the underground, like do 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 do. Yeah, the boss. And then the bonus level stage. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Is that also the character select screen? And then
the wart music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was there a song in the finale?
Oh yeah. So there's also credits
there was
music,
like
6 pieces of music in this thing, and one of them is a huge home run. I don't know about the rest, but that one is for sure a huge home run. The next item on my list. Are we ready for that, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a piece of music from Super Mario RPG. We're going back to the Super Nintendo. And this is still under the category of like the sort of procedural nature of doing work. It is the name of the piece is Let's Do the Fuka Fuka, which is the theme music of Nimbus Land, which is Mallow's homeworld. So when you first take Mallow back to the land that he came from, and he realizes that he is not a tadpole but a cloud, Mallow's real dumb. But so let's listen to this music. I like it a lot. So that's the second song on my list that heavily features a whistle, I guess.
Super Mario RPG has an amazing soundtrack.
Absolutely.
No surprise, it also shows up a different song on my list.
I'm excited to see what you chose. Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, one of the things about Super Mario RPG is that it has both the qualities of the Squaresoft music of that era and the Nintendo music of that era. So it means that we were talking about the sonic identity of the Super Nintendo, and you don't necessarily hear that much in this because they're using a lot of the more orchestral instruments. Like you can hear the sort of pizzicato strings, and there's even like a little, obviously like the regular strings, and there's like a little harpsichord sound in there. And I would kind of chuckling to myself. There's like a little tambourine for a second. But they're going for the more like real instruments sort of things, which I find super neat. We can move on to the next. So that my next section here is when I want the work to jam, when I want it to be a jam, like when I'm getting stuff done. So what better than to pick a decisive battle theme? This time from Final Fantasy 3 or 6. It was 3 on the Super Nintendo. Give me a Mark. Do you have much experience with Final Fantasy 6 specifically?
Yeah. In fact, it also shows up on my list.
I'm glad our lists are functionally the same,
but different.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you picked.
Just like us in real life.
Yeah, so we are functionally the same but different. So this is the decisive battle music, and again, this is where we're getting something done and we're like rocking to it. Those drum and bass parts are so metal. Like, I just love how completely they like sell this like rock and roll idea.
It's also cool having the like Super Mario Brothers 2 right before we played the Super Nintendo songs, and not just like how more complex they are because they had better tools on the Super Nintendo, but even just like length, like how much longer the loop is before it kicks back in. Like the Super Mario Brothers 2 one is fairly short, before it starts repeating itself.
Right. Yeah, and this it's interesting that these have like sections like A B C, whatever. And that really lends itself to introducing more textures and just being more complicated that way. But I'm sure I also have in my brain just like hours and hours of like fighting, whatever boss in that game just over and over again. So yeah, I'm pre-programmed to want to get it done. My next pick is maybe a cheat. I'm pulling from Donkey Konga here. This is maybe my favorite piece of music as it appears in Donkey Konga. It is the.
Did you play through Donkey Konga?
I played the first two. I had 4 sets of bongo drums. I loved this game. And my neighbors in college hated me for it.
This is not the platformer. Is that Jungle Beat?
Yes, that's Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. This is the just
like
straight
rhythm
up music game.
Yeah.
And it has there's a good recording of like there's a good Mario medley in there. Pokemon is fun to do in there. And then there's like pop garbage in there too. All the small things is in there. But the Zelda theme, or it's like a Zelda medley, and it clocks in about 2.5 minutes. I think we can listen to the whole thing. It's like it's got this like Latin salsa kind of vibe to it. It's so good, and this almost just more falls under like music that I enjoy listening to, unqualified, but it can also be a real jam for like getting stuff done. love every second of that.
I like how it's a medley. It has like a little bit of the Great Fairies fountain in
Mhm,
there and
mhm.
everything.
Yeah, it's super good, and the Mario medley is also it's like the same caliber.
Is all the small things a
Nope, it's a straight cover. It's a sound alike. It's not actually
uh-huh.
Blink 182, but it sounds an awful lot like them. Um, and I like the game so much that I played through that song a bunch of times. It was like early Guitar Hero before they got like the actual licenses for for the recordings.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got one more before our common piece. Not a piece.
The small circle in the Venn diagram.
That's right. It's a tiny little sliver in the Venn diagram. I'm staying in the more modern era, pulling from the Wii, from Super Mario Galaxy, a game that I just love. And like the whole, it's an orchestral score, right? And it all sounds great. But there was one piece of music in particular from Gusty Gardens, which was just my absolute favorite from the beginning. I feel so heroic doing anything listening to this music. So let's do some of that. All right, so that rounds out my list. Man, I love that. I love that piece. It's almost more Star Wars than it is
Yeah, I like
Mario.
how and mine is similar, or part of my list is very similar, but I love how so many of these are like we want to, like, they help us feel heroic when we're doing something.
Yeah,
It's
which
like good like motivation for
mhm.
us to, especially when you're like working on a project or like something that you're kind of just um doing it for yourself in a lot of ways. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, you're
for
like
sure.
publishing it or you're putting it out there, but really it's like the reason you're doing it is for almost just like the act of doing it and like finishing it and putting it out there.
Yeah, it's like you're almost doing it for like self betterment purposes. You're like, I put this out here so that I can have done that.
And like I genuinely feel like creating or like finishing any
Hmm.
creative undertaking that you are doing for yourself that you're like not getting paid for um is I mean, yeah, like creating one that you got paid for is an achievement, but doing it for yourself just because you want to do it
Yeah, that's
and
an act of bravery and heroism right there. Like for real, it's so hard to. I mean, I feel like 90% of art is convincing yourself that what you have to say isn't moronic, you know? So yeah, let's feel good about the work we're putting out there. Um, Not just you and me, but everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
Those are my first 9. And so, Mark, we can travel down your list now.
Yeah, well, let's start with one that is on both of our lists. And
Oh, we're gonna start with the one that's on both of our lists.
yeah, let's do
Oh,
it.
okay. All right. This is the overlap one.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
let's-
we're switching it up.
Let's close them together.
Let's close it together?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We'll go to the top of my list.
Yeah.
We'll go to the top of my list.
I don't.
All right.
I don't mean to throw you off. I did.
No.
I prepped this one, and I was like, oh, I don't want to prep a different one.
Oh, okay, great. So Patrick went to a music conservatory, and I'm throwing that information out there because I feel like Patrick can talk about music in a much more colorful way than I can. I feel like I'm much more monkey brain, where it's just like me like not like
music.
yeah, me like them a lot. Continuing on this vein of like wanting to feel heroic, the first one I have on here is the Punch Out main theme, and it's a total Rocky ripoff, and it is an incredibly effective one.
There's nothing wrong with a Rocky ripoff.
The version I chose is from the Wii.
Mhm.
All the versions are good, but this one is like orchestrated, and I really like it a lot.
All right, here we go.
Man, that's like, I mean, it's a training montage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's definitely one of my like workhorse ones when I've just got to get something done, and maybe I have like writer's block or I'm stuck or something. Just like the video that I pulled this from it's just like 30 minutes of that,
yeah.
and it's like perfect. I just I just keep it on repeat, and I'm just like, all right, it's time to get this done.
You mentioned that it's like a real like orchestration of it. But it's really just like the live trumpets. And then like I'm not quite sure what the bass instrument is. But it's cool how restrained it is. That it's just these like almost mariachi-esque trumpets.
Man, when those trumpets come in, I
so
love
good.
that part.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Like I've just had a smile on my face this entire episode.
Yeah, because we're just listening to music we like.
Just like great music.
Yeah.
So my next one is from Dragon Quest III, and this is the overworld theme. And this is another one that like this makes me feel like I'm going on like a historic quest.
Mhm.
So this is a piece that I like to listen to when it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, and maybe I'm not fully prepared, and maybe I don't exactly know what I'm walking into.
Yeah.
But let's give it a shot.
So now Dragon Quest III, help me place this. Is this Super Nintendo or NES? What are we?
I think it's NES.
Okay. Let's listen to the music and then we'll figure it out. Okay.
I mean, you can hear it. It's a Super Nintendo
It
title.
is a Super Nintendo title. The organ sound is like it probably is actually identical to the sound they use in Link to the Past over and over again. There's this very specific organ quality.
Yeah, I feel like lot of Super Nintendo songs you can hear those similar instruments and similar sounds
it's so
across
cool.
games.
They had
Yeah.
a finite number of instruments they could use. That's so cool. That's a really neat piece of music. I don't think I'd ever heard it before. Most of my Dragon Questing experience was from the very first game, which is maybe a little bit weak in the music department, but that was really cool, and I kind of want to check out more.
Yeah, a little bit later I have one from Dragon Quest 9, which was on the DS.
Oh, cool.
And it's orchestrated, and again, it's just like it reminds me of like a Studio Ghibli film.
Sure.
Like we'll get to it when we get to
All
it.
right.
But I'm gonna stay on the SNES
RPGs.
RPGs. And here we're moving into more like chill territory where
Okay.
so when I'm working on something, I have like two modes. One where I like it's very mood based,
Yeah.
right? So like even if I know I have to get something done, but my mood is kind of blue or I'm feeling, like
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Well, and sometimes you have to feel different things in order to write different or to work on different projects.
So this is a music that for when I'm feeling, like a little more melancholy maybe, but still hopeful.
Yeah.
And so this is from Chrono Trigger, and it's Peaceful Days. It's one of the one of the most well-known pieces from Chrono Trigger.
Can you place it in the game? Is it?
I think it's from like the very beginning before anything has really like started happening.
So it's not the piece that starts with the clock, is it?
No.
Okay. Let's listen to it and then we'll talk.
I like that one for projects that feel very personal to me because just that music like conjures memories of walking home from school when I was like in 4th grade and it being like an autumn day and that low winter sun, is beginning to set already. Like,
yeah, that it feels very. I think this is intentional, but very like homey. Like the games does such a good job of establishing like what Chrono's normal is, like what his day to day, his home life. You spend like the first half hour of that game just like at this street fair, and like that's the music that's playing the whole time, and it feels warm and like cuddly, and it's got that I don't know if like you want to call it like a flute or a clarinet, whatever the lead instrument there, and then being supported by that string sound feels so Final Fantasy to me. Like it feels very Final Fantasy 2, very Final Fantasy 3, and very Chrono Trigger. So man, what an awesome pull! I could have just sat in that forever.
The next one I'm excited about. So this is Dragon Quest IX. It's called Hills and Meadows. It's like the overworld music.
Mhm.
And this one kind of splits the difference between being heroic, because it's a Dragon Quest game, and so much of that is just like, you're a hero. You know, it's very cartoony. It's very like, you're a hero and you're setting out to do good. But at the same time, it has kind of like a pastoral quality to it
Mhm.
that makes it feel a little more relaxed than some of the more like anthems.
Yeah. Okay. So let's play a little bit of this. Wow, that's like a real piece of music.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot also of there are these two French movies called My Father's Glory and My Mother's Castle.
Mhm.
And it's like a biographical film kind of about just this like young man and him like in the countryside of France. And that's like the imagery that my mind conjures up is just like beautiful rolling hills. Yeah, it's like a nice mix between there's like especially at the end there's that kind of like more like adventurers theme, but the beginning is just very like paints a picture, I feel like.
Yeah, well, and like the orchestration in that is really, really special. Like, it feels like very mature in like the way it moves around the orchestra. Really, really nice piece of music there. Thanks for bringing that one, Mark.
No, I've enjoyed this because there's like ones from your list that I'm like, oh, I'm absolutely adding this to my playlist
Right.
going forward. It's great. So the next one's an oldie but goodie. Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, The Great Fairies Fountain. Obviously, Great Fairies Fountain is from a ton of different games, but I think this is my favorite version of it.
Now hold on a second because the link that you provided for me has proven to be busted. So
Oh.
let me find it. You keep talking about it for a second.
I listened to so there's great like YouTube compilation videos that have all of the Great Fairy Fountains,
Ooh.
and they're all great. But and they really kind of like maintain a consistency through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't say any more than that because I was going to say something not positive, but this has been such a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just be positive.
Yeah.
So I found a 30-minute video of it. So
that was probably the one I.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Great.
what I like about this specific or like version of it
Mm-hmm.
is the beginning is pretty much just like classic Great Fairies Fountain, like not that dissimilar from a 16-bit version.
Yeah, that harp line has been kind of unmolested for 20 years.
And then occasionally like the strings will come in
yeah,
and then they'll fade out and then they'll come back later. And I really like this piece for when I am like brainstorming basically.
oh,
You know, when I'm
interesting.
like in a piece and maybe I have writer's block or something and I'm just trying to think,
yeah,
you
you're
know,
just
and
trying to
like
exist
consider
in it. Yeah.
yeah, I find it very helpful for that because it's not overly complex.
Mm-hmm.
And you found a 30-minute version again. That's perfect. You can just kind of like sit in it and it's
Just
beautiful and you're
keep
just
it
like,
on.
yeah. You know, yeah.
Is there a version of it might be the Ocarina of Time one that has like a choral backing component where there are like voices singing along?
Yeah, I'm sure there is a version, or is it from the Ocarina of Time, or is it the version from the like Symphony of the Goddess?
with it? I don't know. I can't really remember. Whatever it is, I was gonna say that feels like gilding the lily. Like that's too much. It's such a pretty and like simple line. Harpists, all harpists, know this piece of music.
You'll kill at weddings.
Yeah, it'll kill at weddings. The 4 nerds at the wedding will be like, "Woo!"
So the next one is more modern. It's Professor Layton's theme
Hey,
from the Professor Layton games on the DS.
great. I don't know much about Layton. I mean, like I'm familiar with the games, but I've never played one.
They've did an excellent job of capturing this sense of like European, just like Europeanism, and like the animation feels very European.
Mm-hmm.
Very like
Is it-
Tintin.
Is it level 5?
It is,
Okay.
yeah. So and the music also captures a little bit like that, like European flair.
Okay.
They're really fun games. They like a lot of level 5 games are the same mechanics over and over,
Yeah.
but the character design, like they all feel really lovingly made,
Mhm.
and I definitely recommend like checking them out.
What kind of work do you normally do for with this music?
This is one where fittingly where you're trying to figure stuff out. Right? Because
yeah.
it's very it's very relaxing music, but so it's just perfect for kind of like sitting in your thoughts
Sure.
and
so,
like puzzling through something.
yeah. So when someone's like, "Oh, we need you to help solve this crime," can you move these pegs around so that when you jump over them, you remove one?
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean Sherlock Holmes would listen to this music. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like so many of my choices are like, and I guess it's very telling about me, but it's like, oh, when you're like locked in your own head and trying to, like find your way out.
That's the only way to do it, right? Let's listen to some of Professor Layton's theme.
Very Murder on the Orient Express, like masterpiece mystery.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
I really like it kind of trading off between like the violin sound is obviously like a MIDI sound, as is the accordion, but like just playing those two off of each other, it sounds very French. Like, I don't know, that's a cool little piece of music, Mark. I like it. What do you got next?
Yeah, so next is, here we go, like Final Fantasy 3/6. Terra's theme.
Is this one of, so there are like fully orchestrated versions, or are we going to listen to like as it appears
I
in
believe
the game?
the link that I included, assuming it's not broken,
It appears not to be broken so far. I'm stalling because there's an ad.
is the version from the game.
Great. How do you? This is sort of sad music, right?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's all I don't know. There's something again like again, maybe it says a lot about me, but like splitting the difference between that like going out there and getting it, but also a little bit of melancholy.
Sure. Yeah, let's listen to a little bit of it and then talk about Final Fantasy VI Forever afterwards.
No, so I'll work to this music, but I'll also like exercise this music, like running. I
Yeah.
like it for running a lot because it has a rhythm to
Well, it's
it.
got that really persistent, almost like military snare drum,
and it just like makes me feel like like it sounds like adventuring music, like from something from Lord of the Rings or something like that, where you're like on a quest, you're out there, you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's like a destination you have to like go, and it might be difficult to get there, but that's like, the journey is.
Yeah. Well, this is also the in addition to being just Terra's theme, it's also the overworld map in the World of Balance, the first half of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the first half of the game is like defined by like resistance and rebellion, and like it, so in that way it feels very empowering. The second half of the game is like finding hope amid hopelessness, so the music is much more dire. But like in this one it still feels like there's a world of possibilities in front of you. And I feel like that comes through in the music really well. And man, when those French horns come in as like the kind of like under the support track, that's super cool and just like feels so warm and good.
So the next one on my list is, I guess, probably the only one on both of our lists. Well, anyways, that is on like multiple systems.
Oh, okay.
But because this one is from Okami, so it originated on the PS2 and was later ported to the Wii. But I think this game is so beautiful that I wanted to include it.
I think that's legit. Also, Okami is developed by Capcom.
Clover. So yeah, so it was Clover Studios
Okay.
for Capcom. I think this was possibly their last game before they were closed and scattered to the winds, and some of them reformed under Platinum Games.
It's interesting to note how many of like basically everything we've pulled is either Nintendo developed, Square developed, or Capcom developed.
And there's great, and like as far as great video game music goes, like Konami is
Yeah,
in
Konami
there
does
as
a good
well.
job,
But
yeah.
that's I don't know, like that's so rock and rolled a lot of times that I find it a little
Right.
yeah.
A little like aggressive to work to. Like,
Yeah.
I have a hard time listening to like Castlevania like fighting Dracula music.
right,
Yeah.
right.
It's like just stressful.
So this is from Okami. It's Shinshu Plains, and I'm sure I butchered that. But it is
If you have any corrections, you can email them to Nintendo Cartridge Society
At
gmail.com.
and a lot of my choices earlier had been there's an undercurrent of melancholy through all of these.
Absolutely,
This
yeah.
one is pure joy, basically. I mean, in the game, you're basically like a dog Zelda or dog like
Wolf Link.
Link. Yeah, like Wolf Link, like running around, and with like all the joy the dog has. So like, imagine barking in like being part of this because it's not in this, but it happens all the time in the game.
Uh-huh.
Like it's like imagine being a happy dog
I
and all how carefree that is.
I can't imagine a better endorsement for something than imagine you're a happy dog.
Yeah, so this is like great when I am not necessarily like struggling through a piece and things are just like flowing and I just want to keep that going.
Yeah.
I don't even know what, like, yeah. Sometimes I feel bad having to talk after these because the music's so beautiful.
You don't want to break
It's like
the silence with
yeah.
our horrible voices.
Our like mistakes of God.
It's got it might just be from like the quality of that like flute or whistle or whatever like the lead instrument is there, but it's got that very like ancient Japan
Mhm.
sound to it. It's the same quality. I know this is China, not Japan, but the same quality that like the scores to Tan Dun scores to like Hero or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That same sort of like transparency in the textures there. That's really cool and yeah, good pull, Mark.
So sometimes you can't, just like your brain in general is not good at being focused at one task for a long time. And so I find that's true for.
Are you speaking to me directly?
Yeah, your brain is not good. Everybody else is fine with it.
Patrick is a freak.
But no, it's why really we shouldn't, when you're like studying and stuff, it's harder to retain information if you are just if you're basically just like forcing your brain to focus on one thing
Yeah.
all the time. Your brain can't do that. And so I find that when I'm working on something, especially like writing, that or really anything, like having some like breaks in the texture are important.
Oh, interesting.
And so these next two pieces are like a little different. Like they're not as easy to like fade into the background when you're like working on something. They like draw attention to themselves, and I appreciate them for that. I like having them in the list for that.
That is really interesting, Mark. I'm excited to listen to these.
So the first one is from Super Mario Sunshine.
Hey!
And it's Bianco Hills. It's just kind of like a background music when you're running around the town.
Let's go.
So I like it because it's still pleasant. It's not like an attack on you, but it's like, but it's like there's so many different. I don't know what you call it, like not movements, but like so many different sections, and they sound pretty different. And the instrumentation, maybe because like the, it doesn't have steel drums in it, but it has that sort of like rhythm and flavor to it.
Absolutely.
That it just feels a little more like exciting.
Well, and
You have to pay a little more attention to it.
Yeah, and even like there at the end where we're like a minute or so in, it's still throwing like new and surprising textures with that sort of like timbali kind of like that kind of almost Yoshi music. You know how whenever you hop on Yoshi, there's like an extra drum track. So that I like got major vibes of that, and also there's a little bit where it's doing like low string accompaniment, which sounds a lot like the low strings in Super Mario 64.
Doesn't it sound like immediately identifiable Mario, even though it's not yet?
Like immediately identifiable 3D Mario specifically, even though it's separated by console generations and using none of the same themes. Yeah, that's a cool pull, Mark.
And then the next one is from Super Mario RPG.
Hey,
and it's
Super Mario RPG,
and it's Seaside Town. And it's weird because I feel like Super Mario RPG, I want to say, is an unsung hero of game soundtracks, but I don't know that that's true.
I don't think it's held up like in the same, not that it doesn't hold up, but that people don't hold it up in the same way that the rest of these Square 16-bit RPGs or even then the Mario games really are. But yeah, I actually I was like, I'm gonna put one Super Mario RPG piece on my list, and then I was like, oh god, but which one?
I also limited myself to one for that very reason. It's a great soundtrack.
Next time we do this, we'll each do 10 from Super Mario RPG.
We'll just play the Super Mario RPG soundtrack.
Just
talk about what we like each one. So yeah, this is Seaside Town. This is another one that, similar to Bianco Hills, is not like aggressive, but sounds different from what's come before, and so it kind of forces you to pay attention to it. If it comes up in your playlist, it like jolts you out of complacency almost.
Cool.
has this great like ragtime piano going on, and at the same time, it kind of reminds me of the Beach Boys.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely got this is like another example of it being Square music borrowing elements from Super Mario Brothers. Like there's a lot of that syncopation that you hear in like just like the regular like Mario overworld theme, the athletic theme.
So again, you're like, imagine me in my like this like chill playlist, like Chrono Trigger, Dragon Quest 9, Great Fairies Fountain, and then all of a sudden
All
like
of a sudden-
ragtime piano kicks in. Yeah, it's just like you're like, oh, okay, great. It like gives yourself a break. I really like that.
And then Mark, that brings us. We've both done 9 now, so that brings us to our common track. Why don't you tee this up here?
It's from F-Zero.
Woo!
And it's Mute City.
Yeah. So F-Zero, man,
It's all about speed.
it's all about speed. It's got to go fast in a much better way than Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, this music's incredible. I was did the same thing with this one where I was like, okay, only one from F-Zero.
Yeah. There were a couple I was considering.
Yeah,
Because I run to the F-Zero soundtrack too. That's like on my, like, because it just makes sense to me. It thematically makes sense.
you got to go fast. So there's like 2 minutes of this, so let's just listen to the whole thing, and then afterwards, there's like a re-recording, reorchestration of it for Mario Kart 8, which has a little bit of the same sort of like Latin flair to it that the Zelda one from Donkey Konga has. Not quite so much, but so we'll play this, we'll talk about it, and then we'll play the other one too. I just love that this music lives, It also just fits like the future aesthetic of that game so well that like it's it's going for like a more realistic trumpet sound, but like everything else is all very like unapologetically electronic.
Also, as a Super Nintendo launch title, what like a welcome to 16-bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a super baller introduction of like, this is what we sound like now. So this music gets obviously Captain Falcon is a staple of the Smash Brothers games. So it turns up there in various remixes, and the Smash Brothers games are almost more notable for being museums of music and concepts than they are for even being fighting games. But that's one of the wonderful treasures of like the smashification of Mario Kart with the most recent edition of the game is that we get some of this music re-recorded. There's a Zelda track in Mario Kart 8 that has like a really neat arrangement of Zelda themes. and Mute City is one of the tracks, and so we get this kick-in recording of Mute City, and it's all like a band and orchestra. It's super cool. Mark, I don't know if you've heard this before.
No, I don't think I have.
All right, awesome. And I have heard it a bunch because I've put more hours into Mario Kart 8 than I have any other game on the Wii U. But there's no way to change the like level of sound effects and music volume in that game. So it's just you hear the music, sure, but like Baby Daisy is yelling over it all the time, except for now. So both of the like there's a big saxophone solo and a big guitar solo, and they're both awesome, but that guitar solo is crazy. It's like just straight out of control.
Is there like a horn section in there? Or is that just the
It might be the guitar and the saxophone playing together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's it's so cool.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard. Is it from the DLC?
Yeah. They started adding tracks and characters from other games in the DLC.
Yeah, I've played. I think I've played some of the first DLC, but yeah, this one's totally new to me. That's awesome.
Super cool, right? So you've got choices if you want to listen to Mute City music. You can either listen to the OG Super Nintendo version or the Mario Kart 8 version, and like 1,000 different flavors in between. So that's going to do it for our lists, right?
Yeah, that's music we like working to.
So hopefully you found something that you like working to, maybe even just listening to this podcast and skipping ahead 15 seconds when you get to us talking.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear like Nintendo video game music you love to work to.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course you can send links or tell us what the music is to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, or you can tweet them at us at NinCart Society, or slap them on the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. So Mark and I have been working in secret on a special little project. It's a Metroid Other M play-along mini-series. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's something like that, where we invite you to play along with us as we play Metroid Other M. Now, it's not a play-along in like a it's not a Let's Play. It's not a series of videos where you watch us play. Instead, Mark and I have a little conversation at the beginning, and then we play maybe an hour and a half or so of Metroid Other M, and then we get back together and talk about what we just experienced. And
It's like the video game version of television show recaps.
or like a book club, maybe.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you
Book
were-
club's a better.
I mean, maybe no one really does book club that way, where it's like, okay, read 2 chapters for next week. You go like a month, and then like half the people don't read the book, right? So I think we're going to be putting out the first one of these this week. So if you see an extra Nintendo Cartridge Society in your podcast app later this week, don't be surprised. And if you want to listen along and play along, Metroid Other M is available on Wii U for $20, or you can find it in a dumpster somewhere and play it on your Wii. And if you are not interested in Other M or playing along or listening as Mark and I complain about the game, heads up, there's some complaining about this game. Then you can sit this one out. But I encourage people to check it out. It's turning out to be a fun project from our end, right? Would you say that you're enjoying the experience of playing the game, even if we're complaining about it?
Yeah, and I would, in a weird way, almost say if you've never played Other M before because you've heard it's terrible, this might be a fun way to do it, because we're hoping it'll be like Patrick and I have been playing it in the same room.
Yes.
And so we're hoping it'll be like playing it with friends, where you will be able to play it and then complain about it with us.
Right.
Instead of just having to have the isolated, frustrating experience
Yeah,
of playing Other M.
there are many times while playing this game where you want to turn to the person on the couch with you and go, "What?" Or just laugh at something together.
Because I will say, while it is a game that has a lot of problems, it is also a game with a lot of ideas.
So many ideas.
And I think that has been, in the discussion of how terrible or how bad it is, that has been glossed over. And so while we do our fair share of complaining, I still think, if you were ever interested in the game, it's whether you listen to these episodes or not, it's worth picking up just to engage with the ideas.
Sure, and especially I think if you can find it at like a bargain
A
bin.
dumpster.
Yeah, find it in someone's dumpster. $20 might be too much to pay for this. Again, if you have spoilers for the movie Split,
Mhm.
we are in the month of
We're
January
in the
now.
month of January.
So email those to Mark, of course, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
I was. Oh my God, my heart just stopped. Follow us on Twitter, like I said, at NinCart Society, and the Facebook page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you have a second, we would love it if you would rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Tell your friends about us, right? Your friends
Mhm.
And your enemies. Anyone you think
A
might have-
contest is coming.
Yes, contest forthcoming. We have not forgotten about the contest. Mark, I just sort of forgot about the contest.
I haven't.
Okay, Mark is remembering that there's a contest in play here. Also, while you're checking out, or while you're rating us or reviewing us, you can check out other stuff on the What's a Creative Podcast Network. We are part of that, and we like it. If you like Mark and mine's opinions on stuff, we do write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our music. Nope, not true. She made our logo. Our music is provided by 8-Bit Betty, and you can find his music on 8-Bit Betty's website or by listening right now. For my co-host Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying you can probably run to all of this music, right? You can run to all of it. Thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?